Hi, everyone. Susannah Sprague here with My Best Life, where, it's that bi-weekly podcast where I get on here and I just talk to some of my favorite people I find fascinating, people who I want to just pick their brains and find out like what makes them tick and how do they find joy and how do they find balance and how do they navigate this crazy world we live in. And then this week's guest is just near and dear to my heart. I love her to death. I've known her for a very, very, very long time, like decades, plural, like a long time. And I'm so happy she's here. And, we go way back and I cannot wait for you guys to hear just about her life and like how she got to where she is. And so please welcome my guest this week, Daisy Delahoya. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm good. Thanks for logging in and joining me on Zoom. I have to say, honestly, that I'm really happy that Zoom exists because then things like this are possible. You and I haven't seen each other face to face in so long, but yet here we are connecting and, reconnecting via technology. Thank goodness.
Right.
Yeah. So, where are you right now? Are you in Vegas?
Yes, I am in Vegas. And yeah.
Why? So you used to live here in LA. Why did you move to Vegas?
I was, in a serious relationship, and I started to pursue my education and in LA. And after I was done with my completion of my GED, I ended up being able to go to France and have like a sabbatical and learn, experience France and learn French at a French school. And then after that, since I didn't have a place, I let go of the place, while I was there. And then, my significant other said, well, why don't you just, go back to, he has the house in Vegas. He works overseas, and his mom also and his stepdad live like kind of across the street. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. And then I just ended up there. And then I ended up getting approval and a grant to go to attend CSN, which is the Colorado, the College of Southern Nevada. And so I ended up doing that. And
so are you studying still?
I started studying in 2018. Things were going really, really well. And then I started to have like a little bit of personal kind of burnout and just things happening. So I started to decline in my academic, courses. And then COVID hit. And basically, that pretty much ended like everything at the school, and, my whole entire life was uprooted, and it was just a big, really dramatic, and it had a pretty big impact on my life and circumstances. And so, I did I was able to keep studying for one semester in 2020, I think it's just 2020 fall. But then it was just too much going on. And it was really weird for me to, I don't learn very well, like remotely. I need to like be
there in
the place and like touch things and ask, like if I have a question, which is always, kind of, a very long, weird question that I need answered. I feel like I can't ask it and get it properly answered unless I'm like in front of the person.
Not online.
So and it was, so I just took a little bit of break last, it was in the spring in 2021. And then I was like, I don't even know if I want to, continue studying at CSN, because the goal was to study and go to the university UNLV, and but it was taking it a little bit longer because I ended up missing a semester or two, and then I ended up coming across this program for Harvard, and it's an extension program for adults where they can have the opportunity to be admitted into a course study program for undergraduate or whatnot, and but they have to meet the requirement grade standards, which has been it's been kind of challenging. So
yeah,
our second semester, and the first semester I received a B minus, and nice. I didn't get in because you have to have a B or higher. So it's like that kind of like I'm like really, you're like a B minus,
damn it, your perfectionism kicks into gear. Like, damn it.
Yeah.
Mine would. Well, you mentioned something about being an adult, and I had to laugh to myself a little bit. Like, are we adults? Did that happen somewhere along the way?
You've always been an adult. I'm still growing into, womanhood and
womanhood.
I've been adulting technically since I was 15.
Yeah.
But there are still parts of me that I've desperately tried to really understand and grow in order to be I always see myself as a child. Yeah, most people do too. They're like on the phone asking for something, like, are your mom and dad gonna be there? I'm like,
right. Really? Yeah. So go back to what were you saying about 15? Like, so what happened at 15 where all of a sudden you had to like be an adult?
So my childhood upbringing was really traumatic and tumultuous, and as a lot of children's lives are sometimes, and as a result I ended up leaving home and sort of like being thrown out, but yet also running away, and living with a first serious real domestic partnership cohabitating environment. And I did that. I ended up still going to high school, but I was unable to finish because then that relationship ended around 17, 18 years old. I was left with absolutely no choice but to drop out in order to survive. And I couldn't go home, like and ever since I've left at 15 years old, my parent was always like, oh, you're going to be back one day, just you. I'm like, no, I'm never coming back. And I've never come back. Like
just to prove them wrong. Like I'll show you. Yeah. So at what age did you find yourself like edging towards like Hollywood? Like, was that like, were you really young?
I don't really know how to like answer. I mean, my most of my childhood and most of my life, I've it was I would express that I wanted to pursue acting and music. I wanted to be an actress and a singer. But my mother was, she told me that I had a horrible voice, and nobody was supportive of any of those endeavors. And my stepfather said that I had a better chance of becoming the president of the United States than an actress at 8 years old. So although they told me those things, I didn't care what they thought, because I was like, well, it's I can't help it. It's the only thing I want and love, to want to pursue and do. And, so, they didn't support it anyway. And there was, little model agencies that would always, try to recruit me and stuff. But my parents, we were really fucking poor. So I don't know if I can cuss.
You're right.
And, so I didn't have any of my passions or endeavors or anything like, supported at all. It was like, yeah, right. Like, good luck or whatever, who cares? But, so I when I left and, when I was 15, I sort of, I left with in school, I always pursued, the arts and stuff and excelled at them. But I sort of got sidetracked around the 15 because I was, it's my first real relationship. And it was, sort of all in, where you're like,
especially at 15, like it's just,
you're very like, I was very, into the relationship, and it was all about like the relationship and the person.
Yeah.
And then I started to think to myself, like, wait a minute, like, aren't I supposed to be trying to pursue this career, this goal? Because I was very, very like determined by it. I just didn't have a typical, childhood upbringing where it supported that idea. So I was still determined because it was a passion and a desire to like want to do and be those things. And it wasn't until I finally, that relationship ended that I met another person who was involved in music. And I, told him that I could play bass guitar and he believed me. And then that, I was able to start from there at 17, 18 years old and being able to like, experience music industry and I guess how touring goes. And then
are you still playing music right
now? Currently it's more, there's been a lot of, things that have happened in my life in the last 7 years or so, as most people, I'm sure. But, it became just sort of, not really wanting to do those things anymore, like coming to like a sort of like point in your life and thinking like, okay, well, this is either, you're going to do this or you're not going to do it. And then like, and if you're going to do it, then what's the commitment that you're going to have to like, like, are you going to be able to like really fully, commit to this situation, even when you're like, 50 years old, like what's it going to be like, or, what are you going to be and how, whatever. So there's been moments of, of course, just sort of making it like a hobby now, more than anything. And really trying to
like a passion, right? It's still something.
I mean, it's always a passion.
Yeah.
But there was actually like a moment, maybe like 5 years ago, where I literally had every passion, every aspect of things that I love to do. I didn't want to do it. Like I literally had I was really struggling internally and battling like what,
how did you pull yourself out of that?
I think I'm not really sure if I have pulled myself out of it, but I still, said more now. It's like, okay, this is something that I like to do and I want to get better at it or whatever. Whether if it's music, playing, playing and singing, and just taking it kind of like at the very beginning step and just sort of making it more like a hobby and not because I don't expect, I'm not looking to like, be, some rich fucking person off of, like entertainment industry. It's just not like, so it's like, well, I'm okay with just producing and being a part of content or entertainment and such because it's like, I have to, and I have to express myself in some way, or it's just, life is just, so it's just very, no expectations except for myself to at least improve in these areas.
Yeah. I mean, that's all we can do, right? Is be better than we were a year ago or 5 years ago, or, that's really the only real competition is like, who was I 6 months ago? And do I like what I'm doing more now? Or did I get better at XYZ, whatever it is? So when you were 17, 18, and did you get put into a band? Like, or did you start a band, or like, how'd you start at the beginning with music?
There was a moment where I was, I wasn't musically, like music theory trained. So I didn't know how to, I didn't know the conditions of how it was very, diligent. You had to be consistent, and it was very, to do those things and learn how to play guitar. I got my first guitar when I was 10. It was an acoustic guitar, but nobody in my family actually knew how to, show me how to play it, because nobody knew music theory and chords and actual like reading music, except for one person, which was an uncle, one of my uncles, but he was, he didn't try to.
He didn't spend any time.
He was more like, yeah. Because it's a complicated thing. At like, little kid, I'm like, I don't get it. It's still what you're talking. So I learned very punk rock by ear, and I met the a guy who was kind of like a local, music big deal or whatever, not international, but nationally, whatever. And I had gone to his concerts when I was like 15 years old, and so I thought it was kind of interesting, that like suddenly, like I seen him working as a waiter in this cafe that was really popular in Denver. And I was going through like my first breakup, and it was really a bad experience. I was very suicidal. I had no idea, like my whole entire life that I had known was uprooted in that moment. So, but then I quickly, once I remembered like that could be other possibilities, I, sort of was flirting with this guy. His name was Charles Kammerer, and he actually responded back to me in the sense that he was a waiter, and he was, and my friends, do you think he's looking at you? And I'm like, he is, no way. And I was like 19 or 18, 19 years old, and he ended up being, like 33. I didn't know this, but we, I don't know, we ended up having a relationship, but and he had the band, but the band was going through some changes, and just like a lot of friction with like the bass player, and like their dad was like the investor, like the bass player's dad, and it was just a horrible thing because Charles Kammerer at the time, he really wanted to take more control, and it was a whole thing. And he was like, I just need to find a new, like new guitarist and bass player. And I was like, well, I can play bass. He's like, oh, you can? And I was like, yeah, I can play guitar, like, or bass. And he's like, well, you could probably play like bass. I don't know if, guitar, we'll probably need a different guitar player. And then, somehow we ended up getting a bass guitar, and he's like, okay, here's, can I play the song? And I was like, okay, I can't like play bass. And he was like, okay, well, I'll just show you. And he just showed me all the notes and everything, every song. And I learned like, I learned like every song in like one day, because I was that like, I was serious about what I was saying. I wanted to do it. I had the desire, the passion. I knew I could do it. I just didn't know like the technical aspects of it yet. Right. So he gave me, my first chance, really. And I was so stoked.
That's awesome.
And I was like making my little outfits and like planning out like my whole like, I was like, oh my God, finally, like after all this, like really, really like, extreme, traumatic circumstances that no, young child should have to go through at all, ever. Unfortunately, I really was able to find this person really installed actual confidence in me, because I had no confidence. I couldn't even sing in front of oh, you want to be a singer? Okay, sing for us. And I couldn't do it because of the fact that my mother had said to me when I was 8, I was, like, you're not going to be a singer. You have a horrible voice, And I was like, but I couldn't stop, doing it, even though she said, I was awful. I still had to just in some way do it. I still wanted to do it. So
just doing it in front of people, I guess, would just be that thing that, like, if she had told you, you know what, you just keep working at it and we believe in you. And like, she could have talked to you about the quality of your voice in such a different way. If I think about like, what would have been a better way to just, mold you, or at least like nurture your love for it, and not like, not break your heart over it, but just be like, let's get you singing lessons. That's a really gentle way of telling your kid that their voice isn't as good as it could be, like saying like, let's get you singing lessons. That would have been, so without that though, I mean, I would imagine it would be really hard to sing in front of people. It was kind of belief installed.
Yeah, it was petrifying. So I would practice though, like on my own, like in my room. I was put in the basement. Like I literally was forced to like live in the basement. Like, so, but I would practice like recording myself to, like Ace of Base and like Ozzy and just like trying to learn, mimic their styles. But, there was never like a moment where I did choir and like all that stuff, but it was like, I never felt like I was some amazing singer, but I still wanted to do it. And obviously I still loved it. And it was with my mother, it was what it all came down to was like jealousy and a competition that I didn't, it is unfortunate that was, what she wanted to, be that kind of mother, because it's, it was hurtful.
It's terrible. And I'm mad at her for you. Like, there's just so many other ways to go about it, just so many other ways. But if if there's jealousy there, I just can't imagine being jealous of my kid. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't, I don't know. Doesn't cross my mind.
It's not a normal kind of thing.
Definitely not. Yeah.
And, she was 17 when she had me. But when I was a very small child, like my mother was my world. Of course I thought she was the most beautiful thing in the entire universe.
Yep.
And I adored her. And then that ended very quickly because, she got remarried, or she got married. She didn't get remarried, but she was, got married right away, very young, again at around her, early 20s. And I thought the person was my dad. So I grew up with the idea of I had a dad, but then after like years were going by, like something just wasn't adding up as far as like the way I was being treated. And like, it just, sort of, I had siblings and half siblings or whatnot. And it was immediately like, I was like the outsider and like and
when did you realize that he wasn't your dad?
I started, there was moments when, looking back on it, my mom at one point, they were trying to live into an apartment, and, she wasn't, the landlord wouldn't allow for her to have another tenant, and it was, or a male. And so they were like, oh, you have to call, him, uncle, what, so-and-so. And so I was like, but he's my dad. Like, it was, and I was very, very, also attached to that person as well. My parents were like so cool, and, and I was, very excited to be around them all the time. I wanted to be around my parents and go where my parents were going, like the parties and stuff like that, because they're pretty young. Yeah. But then after there was a sibling born that was, his sibling or his offspring, and it was a boy. Yeah. My treatment, like in my sort of like connection and just wondering like, why all of a sudden am I being like constantly scrutinized as a child, like, like not eating properly, like you're not eating the right way, and you're not, facing the, all these really weird things. Yeah. That were like, why am I, why am I the problem? So it just started to create a serious disconnect, and a sort of, just curiosity of, I just like knew, at some point it was a very investigative sort of I don't mean if you're in class or not, but like get to the bottom of something. Yeah. So like, I never believed in, I knew there was a truth behind a lie, but a truth lie, but I knew that there was like, something that people weren't saying, and I couldn't stand the fact. And so I would always have this really weird desire to like find out the like legit truth. So, I would, I just was like, it was almost like a universe, like spirit or something. I don't believe in that kind of thing, but probably like sort of guided me towards like, hey, you should look in this drawer and like snoop around. Right. And so I'm like, oh, it's a good idea. I don't know why, but let's just snoop around in this cabinet for whatever reason. And I ended up finding my baby book. I'm like, okay. And so I'm like looking through it, and I see the family tree And the family tree has a bunch of names on it that I don't know. And then it says my dad, and the person was my dad, and I was like, oh my God, like I knew it. And then everything just made sense. And, there's one question I was like, well, how was I born in California if my dad never has ever been to California and he's only lived in Colorado his whole life. And I was like, Mom, shit's not making sense. Okay. Like something's up. I could feel it, and once I found that and I showed her, she immediately let me know, like, yep, you're right. This is, and here you go. This is the truth of it. And I was just like,
how did that, your whole world is a lie pretty much at that point. Cause all you have at that age is like mom and dad. Like that's kind of it, until we venture out. So if that all isn't real or the way that it's been presented to you, like what did you think in that moment? Like, I don't know, just finding out that the guy they've been telling you is your dad isn't actually your dad. Like, what did you think at that time?
I mean, it really it was just making a lot of sense. It was like, was a
relief? Like, did you go down I knew it?
It was just like once there was an actual, offspring that was his, and it was he was the first boy, and all. I mean, it was a big deal. It was literally like I was put in a place where it was apparent that I wasn't really an important focus.
Yeah.
And so I just started to feel like that, something is just, I just don't like these people. Like, what's going on? Like, I don't want to be in this, environment, and like, it's nothing is happy and everything is discourse and it's traumatic, and it's, why am I always like, being, treated differently, and, being like sort of like the outcast and not, getting the love or the nurturing and the, all the things a child needs, in order to become a whole person and release, and not go off and create more discourse and, broken relationships. Totally. And so, but I was very, 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 very independent when I was a child. I was, and I look back and I think, God, my mom really just like, I don't know if it was just, I was super independent and I was okay to be like that. 15, 30. Sorry. Or my mom didn't care. So I was like, I would never let my 5-year-old child go like blocks and blocks and blocks away on their own, on their bike, just who knows what they were doing. Would never do that. Like, and no way. And so, so I was, I don't know, I tended to be on my own a lot.
So, I mean, by the time you made it into music and, Hollywood and all that stuff, like you're already like used to taking care of yourself, or at least used to, kind of just fending for yourself.
Oh yeah.
Much.
Like, yeah. I mean, it was a natural, instinct. And I had a good, my parents did install, my mother, especially, just by, I think genetic, sort of hand down of a good hard work ethic, and, really, being a person who gets things done and takes, charge and makes your life happen. And so I learned that like super young age. I had like one of my first jobs when I was around 12 years old, because my parents, they're like, oh, you want to do things with your friends? Yeah, good luck. And so I was like, well, forget this. I'm not going to, like we were poor, but I was like, I'm going to make money. I'm going to get my own money. And I did. And I never asked my parents for money, except for if it was like a chore or whatever. But it was always like, like, you don't want to give me money? Okay, screw you. I'll go find my own money. Yeah. Like,
and so, you did. And you were like, I'm resourceful. I know what to do. And you figured it out.
I got those skills,
And I'm sure they've served you. I mean, those kind of skills. Just, just the ability to make money. I mean, to create wealth on any level, I mean, is
I don't know if I would say that. I don't know if I would say that, because there's a difference between like there and actually making money is a skill.
Yeah.
You can like make and learning how to actually make money rather than just versus you're just going out and getting a job and surviving. There's a huge difference in that. And for me though, my parents didn't graduate from college, and they were just really, dropout, fucking 80s, people. And they didn't have many skills and stuff like that, but they were okay, or whatever it was, at surviving. But yeah,
I love 80s, like burnout 80s people. I'm just
they weren't like burnout people. They were very like, it was, they weren't lazy, they did shit, they had they had they structure, and somewhere along the lines they had learned some type of structure from their families. But I wasn't a person who believed in money. Like I was already like right from the get-go, like a person who was like, why are people put so much value on money and the white picket fence and the family and stuff, because it's just, when I'm looking at it, it just doesn't seem to be making people happy like they say it's supposed to. And it doesn't seem like it should be just like, oh, you're just going to go to school, get married, and have a kid, and like, that's it, and that's what you do, and you have earned money and blah blah blah.
Earn money and then you die. That doesn't really feel good.
I was like, I don't think so. Like, what about like your dreams and your passions and like your desires to be something or do something or change the world? And
so
none of those people.
By the time so you meet Charles, and you're doing that for a while, and then you're like how long after all that was it before you found yourself on that lovely, awesome reality show?
So, I was 18, 19 years old when I started doing the touring aspect of music. And, then I decided around 20 that I wanted to really try to, do acting. And so I, went around and found, what kind of acting environment or like, stuff that was going on in Colorado, which was all mostly commercial. And by this time I already had, sort of like I had tattoos and stuff. And, I had been told so many times like, oh, you're never going to do that. You're never going to be an actress because you have, the look and, you have the tattoos, and that's, maybe a B-flick actress, and you'll never be in Playboy, and you'll never do these things. And I was like, for a while I was like, fuck, like, why did I do this to myself? Like, why did I like literally sabotage myself, knowing that like, that it probably wasn't going to fly because, but I don't. And then, so, I still went into the acting, like just improv stuff and being around that environment. And then, the acting teachers just didn't really care. They didn't really pay attention to me because I wasn't some big selling, like blonde, like normal looking Colorado, like commercial, like Whole Foods or whatever kind of thing that they would book, until one day I booked a commercial. And I think everybody was shocked. I was shocked. I was like, wow, like I booked, it was just like what
was the commercial for?
It was like for some online vehicle like company where you can like go online and like buy a car or rent a car or some shit. And it was like a bit of an international commercial. And it was just real briefly like me, like, strumming a guitar and whatever. And I felt like so happy, because I find, all the people saying like, oh, you can't do this and you'll never do that and 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 then some part of me really did believe that. So I had no confidence really to really, do it, but I couldn't stop wanting to do it. And then I ended up getting kind of sucked into the exotic dancing world. That's how I really survived. Like, doing, what I wanted to do and not live like an absolute, travesty. I mean, we lived pretty poor, but it was like, Like it wasn't like to the point where it was, impossible to be able to actually like get away to do what, if you could do it, if you could go on a tour, like you can, because you'll have a job waiting for you, because of course they'll want you to come back. And so I started, really just excelling kind of like in the dancing area, because I started to figure it out, and I was able to like sort of use that as a way to like pretend and like learn how to like, kind of, be persuaded, act, and like really actually do it, and actually like
it's like
really
perfect.
come
It's
across.
perfect. Yeah.
And
How do I act like I'm really into this dance for you right now?
Right. And it wasn't an act. It was an actual, I did enjoy, entertaining those people. And then it became like, an even more exciting kind of like environment when it was like everybody wanted to actually come, and see me performing a dance, like a real dance. And it's so exciting. And then, but then it became, there was relationship problems. And then it became, suddenly I was at a point where I was, I was around 24, 25. And I was like, I'm just burned out now. And I was going, the relationship, because we did everything. We lived together. We worked together. We were created together. It was like everywhere, every time I needed anything, the person was like, oh, you got to get up, and I need, you got to get coffee, you got to get eyelashes. I'm going to run in the store for you and do all these things for you, so that basically I'm the sort of like the main focus. And he got, he started to obviously not like that.
Yeah.
He started to put a resentment, but I didn't ask him to do it. He was like, I don't know why he decided that he wanted to do it, but I was like, well, fuck it. If you're going to build me up and sort of like, what needs to be done in order to like really create this, whatever, then I'm not going to stop you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm the one who was working anyways, as far as, of course, he would probably like say differently, but it was, he was a musician, it was a standard kind of contract, musician, dancers, and but it was okay, because it was like, well, I don't care. It's like, who cares? Like, that's, we're gonna, I don't mind paying for everything, because like there's a purpose towards it. But then we just weren't seeing the same vision. He didn't want to like take a chance, like, let's go to LA. Like, why are we in Denver, Colorado? I don't want to be here. Let's expand and like really go for it. And it was always an excuse of like, well, I need to wait for the right time, and blah, blah, blah. And it was, and then I ended up like, it's not so much information. It's like so taboo and TMI, but we didn't have a very our intimate relationship, like physically intimate, was like non-existent.
Yeah.
And I think that was a result of, just being so like involved, and just, I don't know, I just wasn't feeling, I personally started to not feel like, that person was, physically just attractive to me and like giving me like that feeling. So, but we continued on, but, we had a big, some breakup discussions and things. And then that's when I started falling into like, I actually started falling into like doing drugs. I was very like kind of anti-drugs for like most of my life. I had done some drugs when I was very young, and then I swore them off and said like, I don't want to do those, because, it's not conducive. It's not productive. And I didn't have like a real desire to. And, the guy, Charles, he was very dedicated for fitness and health, and really, taking care of yourself. And that was something that I had actually never experienced. My mother gave me absolutely no anything except for like, bipolarism and like, crazy, like, psychotic behavior. But like, as far as like trying to explain to me how to be a woman, or what you'll need, how to take care of yourself as a woman, and all those things that I think is very important. I didn't really, I got by. I didn't have, like some clueless idea of like how to be, how to get, men like having a boyfriend or a relationship wasn't something that I was, struggling in. And, but still the basic skills of like eating properly and not eating a Red Bull and like some Doritos for like your entire meal where you go up. And so Charles really taught me how to do those things, like, how to take care of myself and just like, he really changed everything about my confidence. Like I was so embarrassed of myself and scared and shy. And like, I would never like go out in like without makeup or anything like ever. It would be like an impossibility. But
so how did you end up, like, how did that even happen? Like, how did the Rock of Love, like, how did that even happen? Did you get discovered? Did they like how did that even happen for you? Because that was such a great show. Like back when like the early 2000s, when celebrity reality wasn't like the Kardashians yet, like nobody had even heard of them. It was like, The Surreal Life, the Rock of Love, and like the Osbournes. And I'm trying to think of like, what was one more like big celebrity? Oh,
the Paris Hilton stuff. And
yeah. So, but Rock of Love was, what's the
like
one?
Flavor of Love?
Flavor of Love. Yeah. That one as well. So it was like, you guys had the
Surreal Life.
What?
You guys had the Surreal Life.
We did have the Surreal Life. I know. That was crazy. That was so crazy to get married on TV. Like it just, so bizarre. But yeah, that was like the breeding ground of like celebrity reality TV. And, it was just a great time. Just a interesting part of our like, pop culture. That's the word I'm thinking. Like just interesting to be a part of that pop culture stage. So how that happened. And then like, what was your experience? Like, I know what your experience is, but tell the people watching, like, what was your experience on the Rock of Love? Like, what was that like for you as like practically a child, right? Like we were babies.
I don't think I was a child. I mean, in some like aspects, I was
a child. I was like 19 years old, like 20 years old. I might as well have been a child. Like
that's like for you for sure. Like, I mean, you're still like, I didn't actually know that you were that young when that happened. But I would like by the time I got to the point where I was like, basically I was like, this life is miserable. I'm just doing drugs all day long, or all night, whatever. And I'm not hate the relationship, but it was just, I was like, I needed something. I was just desperate for like something. It's like some like lightning bolt to come strike my, I was like, please God, I would always be like, God, like, please, like, and not in like a, like in the Christianity sense, but just in the aspect of just when you're saying, God, like, I can't, please, like, and so we would watch Rock of Love because we were like, what the hell is this? We're like, what is this show? So of course we were, into it. And I had already had some, meetings or, just whatever, being as a dancer, an entertainer, and musicians coming and, touring. And so I had met, some people, but I was always just like the dancer and like, whatever. So, we thought it was funny, like, and after the show was done, I don't know what it was, but I just knew like there were obviously going to be another season. And it wasn't like I didn't really watch TV, but it was just like something about this show. I was like, what? One day I was like, sitting there hating my life on MySpace.
On MySpace, I love it.
And I'm like, I got to do something, because it was really easy to sort of like kind of connect with people on MySpace. I connected with people that were, they were like Nikki Sixx and just a whole slew of people. It was easy to access and sort of say, hey, like, how can I be a part of a thing, or how can I meet you, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to see if there's a casting director for this VH1 thing. I had like really no idea how to like go about it, but I just sort of winged it. And I searched for a casting director, and sure enough, there was. It came up, and it said that they were. So I messaged the person. His name was Brandon Blinko. I think that was how you say it. Sorry. And I said, hey, like, I'd love to be a part of the show. And, I do music and blah, blah, blah. And he got back to me and he says, well, we're pretty much done like casting for the next season. It was already like, they cast it that fast. And he's like, but if you send in a videotape, like in the next 3 days, then, we'll look at your submission. And I said, okay. And I was like, oh my God. And I didn't know what to do. And I was just like, whoa, this is like my first kind of like bigger thing. And I went to like the acting coaches, of course they were just like, but they, I had this idea that I was going to play like this, like make up this like stupid song and like make it just as like absolutely ridiculous as possible, so that people would be like, is that real? Or like, what the, like, she didn't really think that song was like legit, did she? And so I did that. And then, I thought it was really stupid, but eventually, apparently they liked it. And the next thing I knew, like they were like, we really liked you, and we we're gonna send you a contract, and we gotta get this contract back right away, and blah blah. And I was like, whoa, and I was like, okay. And so it just all happened like boom. And the next thing I knew, I was, was in the hotel with all these girls, and it was still kind of like
was it crazy? Like, because it's a dating show, and I mean, I've never done a dating show. I can only imagine how ridiculous, like the drama and just, I mean, you put a bunch of girls together in competition for one man, like, as fake as I know reality TV is, I'm sure there had to be some that was just like some elements to it that were just ridiculous to navigate.
Absolutely. I mean, like honestly, the whole time I was having like the biggest anxiety, like confusion of like, is this real or is this fake? Like, I'm like, there's no way this is real. It's not, but if it's not, but if it's not real, then I'm, they're going to really think I'm an awful person because I'm obviously, I'm not into this, but I had a kind of a motive. But, and even, the producers would even come out and be like, you guys better be telling, really like Brett, because America will not like you. And I was like, it was so stressful. I was like, oh my God, like, very serious. But it was fun. It was amazing. It was like, I'm sure it was one of the best experiences of my entire life. Like, finally being like, here I am. But at the same time, it almost wasn't, I found myself not being quite as, interesting and like badass or whatever, and just like, hey, look at me, I'm interesting, whatever, as I thought I had I could be in this environment. And I really felt kind of like a dud, but I didn't really know how to, whatever, but I just ended up having like a lot of drama. They're like, oh, this is like perfect. So,
oh no, they love drama, especially like organic drama that they can just like throw like, lighter fluid on, and just watch it just burn, that's their reality TV. In case anybody's wondering, reality TV is not very real. Like, it's so contrived and it's so put together. And just like they said to you, like, oh, you better like Brett, or America will know, they'll see right through you. And it's like, none of those girls actually, I mean, maybe kind of on some level, but they don't probably like you as a person.
If he legit came to me and was like, I really want to like make you my girlfriend or fiance you, I'd be like, okay, like okay. But I mean, at the end of the, whatever, it's, it was what it was. And,
totally.
I felt like really, kind of bad, like guilty, but I was like, I don't know, I was like, whatever, like, I mean, there's no way they could be angry at that. But I mean, I got really lucky, to be honest with you, because I mean, to be honest, there was nothing really like strikingly amazing about me. I mean, I didn't think so. It was actually just really kind of like, I was always kind of like the like last choice or last kind of whatever, and that was okay. But I don't know, somehow I don't know. I mean, I really don't, I just feel really thankful and, lucky as hell
Yeah.
to like, whoever decided like that it was, I was going to be like a good,
I love it. Yeah.
I don't
Wait, so
know.
you won?
I didn't win,
Oh, you didn't win.
but I did win.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, I didn't win, but I already kind of like, I mean, in my heart or whatever, like I wanted it to like play out in a certain way, and it came into fruition, and I was like just on cloud nine of like, there's nothing I couldn't do that, if I could,
Yeah.
but of course I don't know, I express that to people because it'd be like, what the fuck, it
Right.
was a collective effort, but I just felt like, having it becomes kind of scary to have a thought in, especially in like the entertainment industry, that you're going to be good or that you are good and that
Yeah.
that you'll make it happen or whatever, because it's not like a really big like kind of place, at least in my experience, that I've seen where they like people to be boastful and sort of like cocky and like whatever, because they're like, okay, because
Yeah.
it's more like a, you got here because of this entire all these other people in this life.
Mm.
Most times, I think, I don't know, for me it was. So it was always like just sort of the lucky, like, don't like want to like make anybody mad or just sort of do whatever they want me to do, and be like so hella excited about that, just like, well, better than the life that I was leading, that's for damn sure. So
Right. Right. So what would you say, like all these years that you've just been in and out of spotlight, in and out of like, TV and music and all of that. Like, what's the one thing that's kind of kept you okay? Like even the time, because I'm sure there's times, right? Like we all have times where we're not like, we don't feel okay, but yet we're still surviving. And yet you and I are still sitting here in 2022, even though we've both been through some gnarly stuff, right?
yeah.
What's the through line? What's the thing that's like kept you okay?
I mean, basically, when it comes down to it, is people like you and my support team that
Yeah.
somehow took me in some way, or believed in some stupid idea, like let's start a band and like
Yeah.
do all
Yeah.
this like crazy stuff, because there was like a momentum, and
Yeah.
then they really supported those ideas, and started anything that I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this and we're going to do it, and then because of that, and then having people as fans or people that enjoy whatever it was I was doing is everything, especially like a support system and friends that just really sort of like took me in, and just I was able to experience so many more amazing like wow kind of things
Yeah.
that I would, most people in my position, or if you think of a whatever, you're just coming to LA and you're trying to like make it in the industry, don't really get to go that route, like all of a sudden you're like like in the press of David Navarro on your first day.
Yeah.
But and then other than that, it's just I don't want, I've really tried to understand, like, is like, when I was a child, I was like, oh, I want to be rich, I want to be famous, I want to be an actress, but I never really became like show the skill of it. I just had like the real drive that I like needed to do this thing. So as far as continuing or whatever, I mean, it's a very you know sort of traumatic experience to even try to do it,
Yeah.
and to say like, why do I do this? Like, why do I? It's a good damn question,
That
and it's
is a
definitely
good
not at this.
question.
Yeah, no, at this point, it's not because I'm like, I want some type of fame or whatever it is. Because like, okay, that's probably fleeting
It
and
has to
never.
go deeper than that
Yeah, like now
because
it's like, okay, whatever. But it's still like, well,
yeah.
am I just gonna not do? Am I just not gonna ever be able to get on camera again and be like, hey, look at me, everybody, or
Mm.
sing a song? Or, like, I don't know. I don't think so. But am I gonna be okay if it's not like some major thing? Like probably, but I still have to like for my own,
Yep.
and whatever, there's, I don't, who knows what the future holds for myself, and what all, the
Yeah.
direction, but
Yeah.
Now it's more like, okay, it's just a hobby or whatever.
We definitely, no matter what, we don't have any idea of what the future holds. And especially you throw in, the world that as it is today, as it stands today, it just has this extra layer of uncertainty. Like, because at least the way the world was going before, it was kind of like the year before that and the year before that and the year before that. Like, yeah, there were some different things, but for the most part, decades after decades, like we kind of knew what to expect. And then this last couple of years, it's just been like, nope, we're going to throw in the whole thing out. So to find, to just be moving forward in any kind of way. Like, that's why I ask, because, a lot of people, myself included, it's like finding, sometimes it's not even balance, but just finding reason to keep going and reason to just keep trying and reason to do just a little bit better than yesterday. It has to go so much deeper, And so,
for me,
surface stuff doesn't last.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like, as far as like the basics of like, keeping going, or even giving crap about anything, I was just emotionally, and other ways I was greatly affected, and so I think for me currently, a lot of it is really like I have a dog, and have like a responsibility to that, and I sort of just try to like do the best for that, and then try to remember to be grateful, because I remember like maybe months ago or a couple years ago thinking like, man, like so sad about this other thing, and I'm like, okay, this is like literally it could get, it might not get any better than this, but it could definitely get worse than this, and I don't want to go that direction. So like I gotta like try to like, because, I could wake up another, year from now and be like, man, back then when COVID was happening, shit was okay. Or like, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So, just, I guess just trying to accept that or just trying to, be hopeful or whatever. But, it's definitely, it's taxing and it's challenging. So,
yeah. Well, I heard that you said support and gratitude and hope. So I heard those three things, and that's quite the recipe. And I know we're nearing the end of our time. See how fast that hour goes? It's like we get talking and boom, an hour's gone by. It's crazy.
And I'm the worst at this kind of. I try like so hard to like learn how to be a good listener and thing. And
I get to be the listener. That's why I asked you to join me, so that I could listen to you, and so the people that listen and watch can listen to you as well. They've already heard me talk, so that's why I have other people come on and talk. So thank you. And
thank you very much.
I'm so glad. I know. I'm really glad that you said yes to this. I appreciate it. It's really good to see your face, and I'm just glad you are okay, and that if you're just bouncing along, and like that's all we can possibly do at this point. Is just keep just one foot in front of the other. And I'm glad we had a chance to like catch up and talk, and I'd love to see you. So can people follow? Well, your Instagram is set to private, so people can't really follow your Instagram, but they can find you. How can they find you?
I absolutely just like hate social media, to be honest with you, but so many people want me to like do Instagram at least. But I'm also getting ready to maybe venture out on a couple of different platforms as far as like, post things. But that mostly I'm on Facebook, but I'm still trying to scale down on it, and I'm going to try to recover that Instagram account, because I actually haven't used it in probably like 6 years, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So, a lot, I guess, people have been asking about it, and so I feel really.
You always make a new one.
So
yeah, just make a new one.
I guess if that's, sometimes I'm like, well, what's whatever, but. I guess if people really want to find me, they can find me.
Yeah, people can find you in your music.
If they're really interested in like whatever it is, I don't like to like say like, do this or whatever, because if they do like it, they will come. They will come.
This is true. This is totally true.
So,
well, everybody can find Daisy on Facebook then, and then if she ever recovers her Instagram, you'll find her there too. But you can also catch, old episodes of Rock of Love on YouTube. I'm sure they're there.
Yeah.
I know this is real life has
Hulu.
episodes.
Hulu is, I think,
oh, really?
Yeah,
Hulu. Okay.
Is a supporter of it. So thank you, Hulu.
Nice. Yeah. Hey, okay. So then everybody go watch, what season was that? Which season?
There was Rock Love 2, which is the season I mean, they're all good, of course. I think there's a lot of people that, they
or just go to Rock of Love
them.
2.
Yeah, and then I also had then there was Daisy of Love, and that was like even bigger, like
awesome.
Just thank you.
Yeah.
But so yeah, Hulu I guess is like the best.
Hulu and Facebook, you guys will find Daisy. So thank you so much for spending the hour. It's been really nice to see your face and chat with you and catch up. It's really good to see you. Yeah. And and so thanks for sharing all of your ups and downs and how you are today. And it's good. And then for everybody at home listening, watching, again, my name is Susannah Sprague. This is my Best Life podcast, where I get to interview people I find fascinating. Thank you again. Please, join me in thanking Daisy Delahoya for, joining us this weekend. I will see you guys in a couple weeks. Thank you.
Glutathione is a big word. It's the body's own master antioxidant. It's a scavenger for free radicals, bacteria, and viruses. There are no products in the market with the ingredient NASET. NASET increases the production of glutathione that's in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system, elevate sense of well-being, support muscle strength and endurance, cognitive function, and liver support. It helps with increased energy and blood sugar regulation. Get your bottle of GSH Plus from www.salvationnutra.com.